Hello everyone and good morning for those who are in some parts of the world, and good evening to others who are in other parts of the world. We are here to discuss today chapters 4 and 5. It's 21 Days with Paul and Stephen, the book that can be true guidance for all of us who are living these transitory moments on the earth. After the United States election, many people have been writing to us through Kardec Radio, through the Spiritist magazine, through the Spiritist side of Virginia, into our personal emails as well, asking for, answers. What's going to happen next? So the good and loving spirits have asked us, let us invite everyone to join the therapeutic reading of the book Paul and Stephen through the author Emmanuel in the hands of the medium Chico Xavier. You can buy the book at Amazon.com, at ADCofAmerica.com, and it's a joy. And here we have our friends. Hi, Adilson. Hi, Rita. Thank you so much for the love. It feels good, doesn't it? And by the way, when we talk about feelings, the chapters today become very emotional. Yeah, the beauty of it all is that we learn that through this book and the pages of it, we learn a lot about emotional management, which is key to the successful steps of our lives. Thank you, Rita. Good morning to you. Well, where were we? We were introduced to Saul. Later, he becomes Paul. Saul, good morning, Raquel. Kisses to you and your adorable kids. And, Saul of Tarsus is a man who has a lot of social status. He's meeting with a friend on chapter 4. The title is On the Road to Joppa. And we learn with him that he has a lot of emotions bubbling inside of him. And the ego is huge. Let us put a pause. Some people ask, what is this story about ego? In Spiritism, we talk about, hi, Goretti. Big kiss to you. I know our friend Bruno Godinho was there. And it's good that you guys are doing a lot of good things there. Looking forward to seeing you. Hi, Manuel. Big kiss to you. I've seen you working hard with the friends at the International Council, our dear Edwin. Beautiful. Hi, Marilda. Big kiss to you too. So, it's beautiful to understand about ego. In Spiritism, we talk about pride and selfishness. But in our modern society, especially in the English-speaking language, we translate it as to the word ego. Psychoanalysis and psychology considers ego a healthy part of us. When we spiritists, we understand we incarnate and we form a new personality. That's okay. As long as we understand we cannot form a temporary personality, as if we are acting in life. No. We've done this many reincarnations, acting. Oh, I'm the son of an illustrious person, so I'm gonna behave very whimsically. That's a mask. That's a temporary personality. That's what we call ego. But the healthy ego is the one in which we are here. Okay, I'm Vanessa. Fine. Before, maybe I was John, Paul, Mary, Joanna, I don't know. But now Vanessa, that's okay. But I am an immortal spirit. So I don't allow that temporary Vanessa to form a personality like acting. And later when I realize I'm an immortal spirit, then I change. No. The spirits advise us that we become more homogeneous. Allowing the ego, Vanessa and Raquel and Manuel and Angelita and everyone. But I am an immortal spirit, so I'm not acting. I shall not form a personality that is just temporary for this life. We're building our immortal personality, let's say this way. We're unique, of course. Hi, Angela, talking about uniqueness. Big hug to you. And we're unique. That's okay, as long as we think, would I like to carry out this future through immortality? If not, let us transform it. If yes, then keep it. For example, Saul. He was like, I am a Jewish person and I'm gonna transform the world. Everybody's gonna understand about Moses. Question. Is that for immortality, that feature of the pride of being a certain religion? Or is it something we keep it for now? You're right. Let's spread the good word. You're right. Of the spirits, Angela. So what are the features we shall keep? Saul was working a lot on the temporary ego. He dressed up like, I'm Jewish and I am a Pharisee. I have social status, economic status, intellectual status, not knowing that this is passing. It's so paradoxical because all the old scriptures talk about what we talk about, immortality, life continued, etc. But the interpretation was different. Hi, Leticia. Big hug to your dad, okay, for his birthday. So, we need to think. In this chapter 4, Emmanuel, as an educator, is introducing to us our own mirror, the ego of this life. Saul was a good man. He was not a psychopath. No. But he was driven by ego, by pride, by selfishness. The selfishness, like, we are gonna do it. Pride, it's gonna be ours. Only we can do it. It's a lot about ego. Are we like this? If you're a spiritist, are you looking forward to converting the world to spiritism? Because if that's the case, we're no different than Saul. We can't. Our goal is not to convert anybody. Also because Spiritism is not a religion per se. It's not like an organized religion. When we read Kardec in the Spiritist magazine, we have the discussion. It's not like an organized religion. What is it then? As he says, it's a moral science that studies the origin, the nature, and the destiny of spirits, us, and our interaction with the corporeal world. That's all that is. You see, he reads from the spirit to the material life, not the reverse. He says spirits, spiritual realm, and interaction with the corporeal. Very interesting. His definition of spiritism has the lenses from the spirit realm, the spirit world, which is the real one, is the everlasting, and the temporary material one. So since Kardec, we're learning how to read life from spirit perspective. We are spirits, to the material, beautiful but passing, nice but passing. So Saul of Tarsus is in a dialogue with Zadok, his friend. And it's very interesting. Recently at the Spiritist Society of Virginia, Cara Correa and I were discussing about the Spiritist view on the power of words. Joana de Angelis talks about how important it is to conquer health by having encouraging conversations. And André Luiz, in the book Mechanisms of Mediumship, which is not in English yet, Mecanismos da Mediunidade, he talks about the different currents we form, destructive currents, constructive currents of thoughts according to thoughts, conversations, etc. He talks about mental inductors, and it's very interesting. In this conversation between Saul and Zadok, his friend, they are talking about life, about their professional goals, or their romantic family goals. But there's a particular moment we want to highlight, to go back to the first 3 chapters in one of the most beautiful, important educational moments of this book for the current times. He talks about his foundation, Saul's foundation in his childhood. This is the case. Let's read, because the words are beyond what we interpret. Zadok stayed focused on the situation at hand and warned tactfully. From what you're telling me, Saul, I'm pleased to know that your father is progressively improving financially, and to think that he used to be a simple weaver. And then Saul replies, perhaps that's the very reason why he taught me that particular skill when I was a boy, so that I would never forget that a man's progress depends on his own efforts. A man's progress depends on his own efforts. Pause. Throughout the rest of the book, on and off, Emmanuel is going to bring to us, in between the lines, but very evidently too, that both Stephen, Abigail, and Saul had a very strong moral, ethical foundation in their family. And this is beautiful. Like yesterday, the mentors were advising me regarding Virginia. As an example, we had a man who was fixing the floor of our home, and Virginia was curious, and she started talking to the man who was doing this. You know, the first impulse is like, maybe she's gonna distract him, or she shouldn't be that close because of the dangers, etc. And then Mentor Joseph said, wait up. Teach her to observe any kind of work, the simplest to the most complex. Because as an immortal spirit, we need to learn it all. I said, wow. So I said, okay, Virginia, pay attention to what he's doing and learn it, because that's a skill we need to learn. This friend of ours has a lot of skills. Let's learn from him how he repairs the house. I learned a lesson right there with Mentor Joseph, because like Saul's father was teaching his own son how to be a simple weaver, and later we're going to learn in the book he needed that skill. But also he taught his son the power of progressing through his own efforts, not being a vampire, sucking somebody's energies. Hi, Sharon. We miss you. Sorry we are so busy, but we want to see you. So here we learn a major lesson for parents and educators. There's no task, no skill that shall not be learned by our children. All of our children and our teenagers need also to learn what Saul learned. The power, that man's progress depends on his own efforts. Our new generation, no matter if you're in the United States and you're given everything just because you have the condition, that's okay, as long as we teach in our everyday lives the power. Hi, Shane. Hi, Rodrigo. So it's the power of our own effort. Remember in the book Evolution in Two Worlds, André Luiz through Chico Xavier taught us that we learn and we progress in life as a spirit through effort and repetition. Effort, repetition. Effort, repetition. When we see a skillful painter, no envy, They worked very hard, if not only this reincarnation, many reincarnations. When you see a couple who is doing very well in their unity, no envy. Sometimes they have worked that relationship for reincarnations. When you see a good relationship between a child and a parent, no envy. Sometimes they've been in that rehearsal, the repetition of parent and child for reincarnations. So we also, through effort and repetition, can learn anything. I tell my students everywhere in this world, you can learn anything. Anything, anything, and I will add everything. Why? Because through effort and repetition, effort and repetition, effort and repetition, we can acquire any skill. Says André Luiz in the book Evolution in Two Worlds, a book that many people think it's only for scientists. And in the preface he says, this book is not for them. For the curious minds of science, the book Evolution in Two Worlds is to console the hearts. After all, Spiritism is all about the promised console. So going back to the book, the conversation went on and on and on and on, and Sadok and Sol finally start talking about this group of men and women, the followers of the way, the followers of Jesus' principles, the good news, and a specific home, the home of the way, where they treat the sick. And Sol hears the words that Sadok is saying and says, these people are all crazy. But we have to go there. We have to go there and check it out. Before he travels, he goes and visit the house of the way, the people who are following Jesus' teachings, what they are doing. He takes his chariot and goes visit his girlfriend, future fiancée, Abigail. Yes, Abigail is dating Sol, not knowing that, later the man he's gonna meet, Jezeel Stephen, is Abigail's brother, who was enslaved and then freed, and now a healing medium and a wonderful preacher of the good news. But we pause. Why is Emmanuel pausing the story to describe a moment in which Sol is meeting Abigail and describes the full dialogue with the details of emotional body language? Why? To teach us that inside of him, he had a good heart. His transformation does not come out of the blue. He had a strong foundation. Okay, a very strong, as we all do, you and I. But we're saying, dig deeper into the family of people, their relationships. You're gonna see that they have a strong foundation. You know why we're saying this? You may not like it, but we need to consider it. Okay, allow me to share this with you. Hi, Ana Luisa. Let me share this with you. I know many of you, and I, and others, millions of people around the world, billions probably, were upset that Donald Trump won the election. But look at his family. I know nothing is perfect, but look at his family. I'm not saying the many wives. That's besides the point. I'm just saying, focus on his children. They may not be perfect either. But who are we to judge? We're not perfect. But Mentor Joseph says, look at the value of how both his wives and him raised the kids. Kids that were raised from parents that were separated, but they are not lost into addictions. My friends, this is not a trivial realization. Even Hillary Clinton, in one of the debates, she mentioned it, that one of the things she admires the most in him is the value of his family, his children. They are productive. They respect their father. And this tells us something, because if you are a parent, you know it's not a given. It's not a given. You may be a hard-working parent, not necessarily your child's going to turn into a hard-working person. They work hard, they respect the father, they admire their father. Oh, because of the money. Look at many children who have billions of dollars. Their parents are billionaires. Not necessarily they admire their father, their mother. Not necessarily they are productive. Not necessarily they are even working with their father. So this tells us something about his character. We need to value the qualities. We don't want to be obsessors of the president-elect. Let us trust his good nature. I'm not saying it's going to work out, but let's do our part. Let us do our part. Emmanuel is showing to us right now that also Saul, later Paul, had a beautiful heart. You know, as humans, we have psychologically, we have the feminine and the masculine inside of us. I'm not saying the brain, but just the mental. Whether in the body of men and women, we have the feminine and the masculine. And when we are in the body of men and women, we're supposed to work more on one than the other, but not necessarily only on one of them. For example, now I'm in the body of connected to the feminine body. Supposedly, I'm going to work more intensely in this life on the feminine features. But not only, but more on the feminine. Probably that's one of the reasons why I incarnated as a woman. But what is this feminine? And if I am reincarnated in a body with a body, the clothing of the male body, it's also to work on the masculine features. What are they? We need to know. Carl Gustav Jung in psychoanalysis taught us that. And Jesus is the role model for us. Whether in the body of a man, he displayed both the feminine and the masculine perfectly. And again, this has nothing to do with sexual orientation. So first quiz of the day for us as exercises for self-transformation and self-illumination. If I am connected to a body of a woman, what are the feminine features that I need to focus upon? So we need to know. I'll give examples. What is the feminine? When we feel compassion, feminine. When we feel intuitive, feminine. All the mediumistic abilities are feminine features. But the discipline, masculine. Determination, masculine. And endurance, masculine. And then resignation, surrendering, feminine. Kindness, feminine. But also, if we talk about the features of being focused and driven, masculine. So you see, we work on these features whether in the body of men and women, but when we're connected to the body of men or women, we are supposed to work more intensely on some features that are related to that experience, because it's like a clothing specific for diving, for going to the moon. It allows us to work upon specific abilities. Okay, it gives us room also to stay in those environments. So what are the feminine or the masculine features that we're supposed to work upon in this reincarnation? What is it? Do you know? Let's meditate on this. That's the first quiz of the day. Hi, Karen. So let's learn the feminine in Saul. Many people think of Saul as like brutal, cruel, etc. Psychopath. No, he's not. Let us, Emmanuel is inviting us. Come here, let me show you. It's as if he's bringing us and showing the camera. Look at the feminine in Saul. A few miles ahead, a comfortable house appeared, set among tall date palms and blossoming peach trees. All around were large vegetable patches. He's describing the house where Abigail is living in, the house of Zachariah and Ruth, who are like parents taking care of Abigail. And they meet and they see each other and they describe her. Jeziel's sister, Abigail, seemed to have recast the delicacy of her feminine features in the forge of the suffering she had gone through. Her graceful looks and the blackness of her eyes had been combined with a veil of subtle melancholy, which had enveloped her completely since those tragic and lugubrious days of her past in Corinth. How she wished for some brief and banal news of the brother. And of course, Zachariah and Paul are working on it. On this particular day, Abigail had strong memories of her dear brother, his always caring warnings and counsels. Since she had begun her relationship with Saul, the young man from Tarsus, and was now anticipating the possibility of marriage, she anxiously prayed to God for the consoling assurance that her brother was still alive, wherever he might be. She knew that Jeziel would like to get to know her heart's chosen one. She would tell Jeziel that the inclination of Saul's soul was also interlaced with religious and philosophical thoughts, and there had been many occasions when both she and Saul immersed themselves in the contemplation of nature, comparing its colorful lessons with the divine symbols of the sacred writings. This is beyond beauty. Emmanuel is sharing with us a habit of couples that maybe we should embrace, that creates unity and also can be very empowering for the soul. She says that Saul and Abigail, when they are together, they sit by nature, contemplate nature, and extract lessons that are correlated with the religious sacred texts. Do you do this? Do I do this? Should we do this? Yes, we should. Hello, Marcia. Hello, Alan. I wish you're here to sing to us the songs of love. And this is exactly what we're talking about. So, this is an exercise this weekend for the couples. And even if you're single, it doesn't matter. Sit by nature and let us observe it and listen and feel nature and see what lessons nature in its contemplation, in our contemplation, what is nature telling us that would be easily merged with the teachings of God through Spiritism, through whatever pathway we decide. Let us do this exercise. Do you believe Saul used to do this? When you see that man impulsive, enraged, and apparently cruel, now sometimes really cruel, don't forget, he has elements inside of him, the feminine, the one that connects him kindly to God. His surrender to God is so vivid that it becomes the bridge to his transformation. And surrender is the feminine inside of us. When you see people nowadays that have a hard time surrendering themselves to religious teachings and to God, it's the feminine inside of us that is struggling. So at these current times of transition and post-election, we are being called to boost the feminine inside of us. And again, this has nothing to do with sexual orientation. You may be a man, strong in your masculine features, but also very strong in your feminine. Look at Jesus. Perfect balance of the feminine, the masculine, the yin and the young, as our dear Carl Gustav Jung used to teach us. So had been much help to Abigail in cultivating the flowers of the faith that Jeziel had sown in her simple soul. He was not excessively sentimental or given to those effusions of affection that occur without great meaning, but she had understood his noble and loyal spirit, which indicated a profound sense of self-discipline. So Emmanuel, on the road to Joppa, as he's bringing the camera, we're seeing Saul with his horses and the chariot visiting Abigail. He's showing to us another side of Saul we haven't come to know. And one of them is also this self-discipline. It's so interesting. Many Spiritists love the passage when we learn that the 17-year-old Chico Xavier was advised by Emmanuel, his mentor, on the importance of discipline. Oh, you want to learn? You want to help spreading the Spiritist news? Okay. You need discipline, discipline, discipline. You say, oh, it's so beautiful. But when it comes to us, oh no, I'm already doing a lot. I'm already changing myself, transforming myself. So we're not very disciplined deep inside. Because the mentors are always bringing us to another level. Because they love us. It's like parents and children. If you love your child, you're always going to bring a new challenge. Because you want to see the progress. You want to see the growth. So how easy are we in the hands of our guardian angels? Another quiz for us, the second quiz. I know only 3 quizzes a day, but the second quiz of today. I feel the love. Big hug to you, friends. These teachings are very loving and embracing. But the quiz for us, how are we being easy in the hands of our protector spirits? 0 to 10. 0 being not easy at all, being very wild and crazy, or excellent, being wonderful. How easy are we? Oh, Vanessa, but I'm not a medium. I cannot listen to my guardian angel, my protecting spirit. You don't have to be an ostensible medium. All we need to do is exercises on breathing, so we relax, turn on the parasympathetic system in our physical body to tell the whole body to relax. 3 deep breaths, and then your parasympathetic is on, you're relaxed, alert, but relaxed. And then we start feeling. It's about feeling. It's not about mediumistically listening. It's feeling. Exercise this openness. Just be open. And how am I being easy? Saul was very self-disciplined. No wonder. Jesus never gave up on him. He never gives up on anybody, any of us. But no wonder he kept very close attention to him too, because he was almost there. Almost. This close. But there was one roadblock. One major roadblock. Ego. The pride of temporary things. So if you were born in this country, oh, I'm so proud of being born here, being born there. Yeah, appreciate the roots. But do not separate yourself from other nationalities. Because everything's going to change tomorrow when we reincarnate. If you're proud of being of this family, that family, it changes, friends. Of having titles, it's passing. You see André Luiz in the book No Solar? He discarnated as a physician when he got there. Here, you're not a physician in the spiritual realm. Hi, Cesar. Thank you for your kindness. So, if I have titles, I'm not going to bring my title. It's okay. It's a tool. A title is a tool. we recognize. It's important as a tool, but not as something that defines us. It doesn't. Doctor, great, but I also have PhD. It doesn't mean anything. It's a tool. That's all that is. It's a tool. And I better use it. There are many people who study, and they graduate, not a lot, no, some, there are a few. And then they don't do anything. I did this course, that course, and this, I graduated on this, and that. They don't use anything. We're going to be held accountable for the tools we're given and never used. We better use in some way, and not only for us, for the benefit of everyone. For that, we need self-discipline. Abigail was sure that she understood his innermost aspirations. It's a lesson about for couples. The end of chapter 4, it's a lesson for couples. We will catch up in future chapters, but right now, she was so happy to see him again. The dialogue is so beautiful, and he's so loving, so caring to her. You see, there is a moment that she's crying because she's talking about her brother, and you think he didn't feel anything. Listen to the description of Emmanuel. We're learning Saul has a beautiful heart, even before he became Paul. Observing the veil of sadness stamping on his companion's face, Saul asked tenderly, "Why are you so sad today? You feeling?" He was tender to her. He already had it, and he already could observe the emotions of others, which is unique. It's not a given. We need to train ourselves to observe people's emotions and not to be self-centered. You see, he was able to observe her emotions. You see, he had some features of emotional intelligence. And she answered with moist eyes, "I don't know, but I've been thinking a lot about my brother." And she keeps talking to him. And after a short pause, she looks at Saul with her big eyes and said, "Listen, Saul, if Jeziel is still a prisoner, will you promise me your help on his behalf? And my hopes now rest entirely with you." How does he reply? How many of us come to our partners, or the partners comes to us saying, "I trust entirely on you," and we say, "Well, but I can't do anything. This is not my problem." How many people are like this? And they say they love each other, they're married, and they don't care about each other's emotions. How did Saul react to her request or took action? He took her hand and replied tenderly, "My friends, this is Saul of Tarsus. Many people don't read him well. He is not a brutal, cold person. He has a wonderful heart already inside of him." He took her hand and replied tenderly, "I will do everything I can for him." Beautiful mix of masculine and feminine. When he takes her hand and changes the tone of voice to sound tender, feminine. What he says, masculine, because he's saying, determined, I will do everything I can for him. But he mixes well. What a beautiful combination. No wonder he was this close to the major shift in his life. This close. We need to read the description. The emotional body language, the description of the emotional body language in this book brings us the missing links regarding the transformation from Saul to Paul. And this is, for us, a very important observation. How are we doing regarding our emotional administration? Because emotions are mostly expressed through the emotional body language. Facial expression, gestures, postures, tone of voice, silence, pauses. How are we doing in that regard? To be coherent, to be congruent. Thoughts, feelings, words, actions. That's the goal, to become a pure spirit. We really need to polish. We need to polish all these features. So, and setting his commanding and amorous eyes, loving eyes on hers, he asked emphatically, Abigail, do you love your brother more than me? Thank you, Emmanuel. Thank you, Emmanuel, for bringing soul completely to us, so we understand completely the whole story. Now we get it. He was a man who was down to earth. He had feelings, a lot of feelings. You see, he has loving eyes, feminine, but he asks emphatically, masculine, beautiful combination. You see, he's almost there, but still self-centered. Do you love your brother more than me? What question is this? These are different love, types of love, but I know many couples who struggle in that regard. And that is jealousy, a feature we need to tame. And it's regarding the ego. As much as he was jealous, we may be jealous, we need to work on it. Joana de Angelis has books that talk about existential conflicts. It's already in English. Existential conflicts, and for now, I know it's available at the bookstore of the Spiritist Group of New York, sgny.org. You can buy the book. So she then answered, what do you mean? You know my tender heart, etc. They kept going on, and she has tears, and he gently said to her, don't cry. I understand your sacred loving reasons. If necessary, I'll go to the ends of the earth to find Jezeel. Are you meeting a new soul? Emmanuel is introducing to us a new man. A man probably nobody knows. He was not cold and cruel per se. He had a good heart. He had a lot of emotional intelligence inside of him already. But major roadblocks were in the way. So the dialogue goes through and he tells her, I need to take care of a lot of important things right now. And he squeezes her hands more tenderly and replied, enchanted, I in turn will give you my sincere and devoted heart, Abigail. My spirit used to hold only love for the law and my parents. My youth was very restless but pure. I will not offer you an unscented flower. Since the early days of my youth, I have known companions who encouraged me to follow their uncertain steps in the intoxication of the senses, the precursor of the death of our noblest concerns in the world. But I have never betrayed the divine ideal that vibrates within my sincere soul. And he keeps talking about his heart, and he gives his heart. You are the heart of my mind, he tells her. You are the heart of... It's amazing. It's amazing how you're the heart of my heart, of my mind, the essence of my reasoning, and you be the guiding hand of my edification throughout life. Are you surprised? This is soul? Yes, that's him. He had a healthy home education as a child, says Emmanuel, and ever since then he had kept pure the primary impulses of the heart. So you see, again, Emmanuel is bringing to us, he's tying the knot. Another chapter he wraps up saying, childhood, 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 the foundation for solid adulthood. Childhood, childhood, childhood. Again and again, chapter after chapter, he's telling us through the characters of the book, childhood is the most important period of life to be focused upon. He ends the chapter talking about how soul is committed to understanding. Now his professional religious being is coming full force. And he leaves Abigail there, says, I'll come back to pick you up, but now I have to solve a major problem. Now the wild masculine inside of him goes to the house of the way. He meets his friend Sadok. In chapter 5, Stephen's preaching, Saul and Sadok enter the house of the way, the humble church in Jerusalem, and notice the compact crowd of poor and miserable people gathered together with a ray of hope in their forlorn eyes. Built at the cost of so much sacrifice, the simple structure was no more than a large shed with a tile roof and fragile walls. And you know why Emmanuel is describing this to us? Especially for the Spiritists, to tell us that the good Spiritist centers are simple. And they are built with much effort. That's the rule of the game. Don't think your center is doing any bad because it's a lot of effort. That's how it's supposed to be. That's how it's supposed to be. Simple. You've never heard of Chico Xavier building a stadium for Spiritist Center. He had lots of donations. He never used a penny to build a super temple, super church, like 20,000 people, stadium like Spiritist Center. And when he was at one of the centers in Uberaba, the Comunhão Espírita, he received a large donation from a woman. The directors, because of the amount of people that came to the center, they wanted to enlarge the center, which is valid. But Emmanuel said, we keep ourselves simple. And he even has a saying, o centro espírita que muito cresce, o amor desaparece. The Spiritist center that grows too much physically, love disappears. Don't aim at creating stones of temple stones. Sorry. Our focus is on caring for each person who comes in. Each person and every person. There are many centers who are overwhelmed with the needs of fundraising to sustain itself. Wrong focus. In the book Spiritist Conduct by André Luiz, we read, we shall never, ever, ever, ever talk about money inside of our doctrinal meetings, public meetings. Never. You can invite people for the event, but never. And André Luiz explains why. Because people will think that if we do so, we are conditioning. We're giving these works for this money, and that's not right. In the book Disobsession, he says, the core group of the center is supposed to sustain the center, not the participants who come at the door looking for relief. Rule of the center. In December, we're going to dedicate one whole program at Kardec for this. Many people have been asking us, what does Spiritism say regarding administering a center? We'll share this with you, the teachings there. And I think it's December 5th, maybe. Or December 3rd. Yeah, December 3rd. Okay? So we are entering the humble house of the way. Thank you for the love. I feel the love. Hi. Hi, Rob. How are you? So they are entering the center, and how are they greeted? Very important for us. The kind Galileans offered Saul, James, Peter, John, the most comfortable bench. He accepted the kindness, but smiling with this undisguised irony at everything he saw. You see, he couldn't disguise. That's something to learn. And he was like looking around, looking down on everybody, thinking, what can these poor people do? They're all sick, etc. So he's observing, and he concluded, there's so many people here. See the eagle? He's looking around and saying, well, at least some people here are with me. And maybe they're here just because of me. They know I'm coming. The ego kills us when we have to constantly drive our observations back to us. People are doing this because of me, taking everything personal. In this chapter 5, titled Stephen's Preaching, one of the things that we learn, it's all about emotional administration. He shows to us how our ego, Emmanuel shows to us how our ego drives us crazy, bringing everything personal. And Don Miguel Ruiz, a wonderful Mexican thinker and physician, he wrote a book, The Four Agreements, that became bestseller. And one of the things he says and teaches us, do not take anything personal. And Jesus taught us that too. Do not take anything personal. But Saul takes everything personal. He looks at a crowd in the house of the way and he thinks to himself, certainly many of these people are here because they know I'm here. And they are with me. They think like me. Does it sound like anything you heard currently in the elections? But remember, behind an egocentric heart, there is a heart. Behind an egocentric soul, there is a heart. We saw it in his interaction with Abigail. Behind an egocentric heart of the president-elect, there is a heart. Look at his children. Think about this, okay? Just think. Don't resist evidence, facts. And he's there, and suddenly comes the adorable Stephen. Stephen is already a balanced spirit. His feminine and masculine are working together in beautiful balance. He is there to share. He's not like a preacher, but he's sharing. He's kindly looking over the crowd with serene and fulgurant eyes. Beautiful combination, masculine and feminine. Serene, feminine. Fulgurant eyes, masculine. Beautiful combination. Masculine and feminine, he is displaying in his eyes. He is not at all disturbed by the presence of Saul and his numerous friends. He began speaking in these words more or less in a clear and vibrant voice. Now pause here. Third quiz of the day and last. Okay? We see the emotional body language of Stephen here. Feminine and masculine. But there's one more feature throughout this chapter. From now to the end of this chapter, Stephen shows to us how he is shielded regarding emotional contagion. Emmanuel tells us that he was not disturbed. Thank you, Leonor, for your love too. It's good to be together. So he's telling us, and I'm reading again through the phone. You can buy the ebook. And he says, he was not at all disturbed by the presence of Saul and his numerous friends. Not at all. Now, ourselves, quiz. How are we doing regarding emotional contagion? We see some people are like, they are feeling something, we start feeling too. We need to work on our emotional contagion features, like protecting ourselves emotionally. And you may be asked, how do I do it? First, we need to measure. Let's take a thermometer, the thermometer of the mind, and measure from 0 to 10. The third quiz of today, 0 to 10. 0 being zero emotional shielding, 10 excellent emotional shielding. Where are you regarding it? Where? Do you easily feel what other people feel and don't know what to do? People are feeling afraid, you feel afraid. They're feeling joy, you feeling joy. We need to work on it. Stephen is already an example for us on how to keep ourselves true to what we feel. What others feel, it's theirs. It's one of the 3 features of emotional intelligence. I first monitor what I think and I feel. Then I observe what other people feel, know the difference. And third, based on this information, I know what to do and to think and to feel. So, to boost our emotional intelligence, which is crucial for immortality, like Stephen, we need to shield ourselves. Now, how do we do it? How does Stephen do it? He's a role model for us now. He now follows the teachings of the Christ, but he has always been very serene. It's his feature he gained probably through many lives. How do we do it? We need to have solid principles. For example, the elections. Oh, everybody's worried. Oh my gosh, what's going to happen next? The world's going to fall apart, Third World War, blah, 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 blah. Hold on. Are you a spiritist? Yes. Who is ruling the world again? God. Oh, and what is God again? Question 1 of the Spirit's book. Oh, the supreme intelligence of the universe? Also, God knows what to do. Oh, but don't I have to do something? Yes. But how? With serenity. I'm not going to do what others have to do. I'm going to do what I have to do. So does it change a thing for me? Yes. I'm going to work harder now to help more, to be more serene, to be more balanced. That's how we shield ourselves. We need to ask ourselves, where are our moral principles as our foundation? Like a house, we need a strong foundation. That's why we tell parents, don't wait for adulthood to tell your children about the foundation of our inner house. God. St. Augustine, in the Gospel According to Spiritism, chapter 14, item 9, gives us the recipe for successful parenthood. The mission of parents is to connect their children to God. Nothing else. Everything else is just additions. How are we connecting our children to God? We're the bridge. Let's be good bridges, healthy bridges, loving bridges, and they're going to be strong, like Saul. He still made mistakes, but his foundation gave him room to rebuild himself, right? Revamp his own self and find his pathway. You want to know more about this chapter? Tomorrow? How about tomorrow? We're going to wrap up chapter 5, enter chapter 6 tomorrow, Saturday, okay? And if you are in Long Island, New York, United States, tomorrow from 11 to 7 p.m., we have a special seminar, several speakers, together talking about the importance of suicide prevention. Suicide prevention. Go to the website lispiritistdoctrine.org. The Long Island Spiritist Doctrinal Studies are organizing, sponsoring a special event at Stony Brook University. We're going to be there as well, but we're also going to be here with you, okay? Tomorrow, we're going to stream our program, and we're going to continue these 21 days with Paul and Stephen. You loving it? Me too. After all, love is the oxygen of life. Big hug to all of you, and let us love without hesitation.